Hello everyone, this is Lye Yosh. Today's going to be one of those episodes where we connect the dots. Today I'm here to inform you about what is probably known as the easiest and the fastest way to know if that person you're talking to right now will become toxic in the future. We humans are social creatures, and while this seems unconvincing coming from a hermit, but we are, and you probably know that we need friends to hang out with and socialize. Once you become friends with a certain amount of people, you start to think to yourself, can I trust this person? How much can I trust this person? Can I trust this person enough for me to share uncomfortable stuff about myself? Can I expose my vulnerability to a certain level to this person and still expect for them to keep it a secret? Will they ever stab me in the back? This is a pretty important decision to make because if you tell the secrets to the wrong people, they will use this as a weakness to manipulate you. When you're at your most need for help, they'll come at you and be like, oh, I can help you, grab on. And when that happens, they'll be like, oh, just kidding, haha, and then let go of your hand and scar you to death. And then after that happens, the only thing that's waiting for you, poor Mufasa, is to fall and get trampled by a bunch of news. So, finding out who's probably going to scar you is pretty important. But then another thing about these people is that they have layers, which makes them hard to detect. So I mean this by you first have your friends who are generally supportive of you, who wishes you good luck and interacts with you in good faith. And then at the other side, you have the enemies, who's going to be generally mean to you, has bad intention towards you. And when you consider surrounding yourself with good people, you tend to stay with your friends and stay away from your enemies, right? That's obvious. The problem is, among the people who you thought were allies, there are people who are only pretending to be your friend. On the surface level, they're like, hey, how's it going? What's up? And you're thinking, this person's really nice. I want to be friends with this person. And on the first couple times you guys hang out, they're really nice to you. They're really kind to you. So you think, I can trust this person. So you start opening up and exposing your weakness, your insecurities to them. If you've done that, I'm sorry, but that was a very big mistake you just made. Because now that they got your weakness, they're not going to be nice to you anymore. They're going to be controlling, they're going to be manipulative, and you just created a very impactful twist villain. And it's not funny at all, because if you've ever had to deal with these kind of people, you know that it's no fun at all. This can happen in relationship, this can happen in friendship, it pretty much can happen in any social interaction. This behavior is called covert aggression. Don't mix it up with passive aggression, because they're pretty different stuff. Passive aggression is much more of a genuine anger. You just don't show it because, I don't know, your social situation or whatever stuff that's holding you back from outright yelling at the person. Covert aggression is there for a purpose. They're much more calculated. It's hidden underneath a layer of fake niceness, so that on first glance they seem nice. This makes other people fall for the trap and expose their weakness or vulnerability. And once they do that, people with covert aggression will turn their back or use that weakness to manipulate and control them. So at this point, I think I covered enough about how people with covert aggression are people who you want to stay away from, because they're going to ruin your life. They're going to make you feel miserable. But then you might ask, hey Yosh, so I get what you're saying, but how can I actually know who to trust and who to avoid? And I understand your concern. Just knowing these facts and knowing how to detect these people are two different things. And I'm pretty sure you've heard people say stuff on YouTube, stuff like, when you interact with a toxic person or when you interact with a person with covert aggression, they tend to have really high happiness state and really low sadness or anger or negative state. I would say that all these traits are true, but I wouldn't recommend you trying to find out if people who you're talking to have these type of traits. And I say this solely because all these methods forces you to interact with these people, which you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. But there's one method, which I'm pretty confident that it's the most easiest and the fastest way for you to not interact and just observe them and see if they have any covert aggressive traits. And in order for you to fully understand the method, we need to take a little psychology lesson. We're going to be talking about the dark triad. The dark triad is basically a culmination of 4 different major dark personality traits that is used to measure how toxic or malevolent a person is. It includes psychopathy, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and sadism. People usually think of psychopathy and psychopaths as simply being crazy, but that's only the gist of it, because what really is that psychopaths are the type of people who are not able to understand the feeling of others. When someone is crying with their heads down, regular people would at least assume that something bad has happened to them, and that person should be left alone for a bit. But psychopaths are not able to come to this conclusion, and they don't bother the space, so they can easily talk to them as if nothing is happening. Machiavellianism is about using other people for their own utility maximization and not feeling anything about it. This too is a really cruel and sick personality.
And then we got narcissism, which is self-love and self-admiration on steroids. A narcissist holds a tremendous amount of pride and self-entitlement, and they're the type of people who think they deserve the world for no reason. And lastly, there's sadism, which is the trait that finds enjoyment out of others' misfortune. These people also go out of their way to provoke negativity, so much so that they won't even mind receiving small harm along the way. Now that I've explained the dark triad, let's move on to today's study, which was done at Ulm University in Germany. The study provided a conclusion that, in order to protect ourselves from these people, we need the ability to distinguish whether or not a person might score high on the dark triad trait. But it's inefficient and time-consuming to apply all 4 of the traits to the personality of the target individual. It would be so much better if there was a more quick and easy way to find out, something like a certain behavior that resembles these dark traits. And that's what the study has figured out. Across 4 different studies that took over 2,500 samples in total, the researchers tasked the participants to answer a questionnaire resembling a psychology quiz, and this is made by professional psychologists, so it's legit. The questionnaire consisted of an agreement scale on how much the participants agreed with statements that resembled socially questionable behavior. It included statements like, "It's difficult to succeed without cutting corners here and there," or "People who get mistreated usually have done something to bring it in themselves," or "I'll say or do anything to get what I want." Next, the researchers collected the questionnaire and applied it to 9 different socially malevolent traits, which were egoism, Machiavellianism, moral disengagement, narcissism, psychological entitlement, psychopathy, sadism, self-centeredness, and spitefulness. This is something called the D factor, or the general dark factor of personality, which is an indicator used to measure how much a person scores on the dark triad. Their hypothesis was that any single dark trait, in this case the 9 traits from the item pool, would be related to at least one other dark trait, typically more than one, and the scores the participants get on the questionnaire would typically follow this principle. If you score high on one dark trait, for example, narcissism, you'll most likely also score high on egoism, another dark trait. I know it's a little confusing, but what I'm trying to say is that if it's common for multiple dark traits to be interconnected with each other, there might be a single point in which all these traits meet, a single personality trait / behavior that if you can detect, you can accurately predict that this person is toxic and should be avoided at all cost. No need for an elaborate personality check using psychology tests, because all you need to do is to observe the person performing this one behavior based on the personality trait. If done consistently, there's a good chance the person is prone to come stab you in the back in the future. And the result revealed that, as predicted, all the dark traits were related to each other on some level, and a bunch of them were strongly related to a specific another. And the single coordinate, the single behavior / personality trait, where all the other traits met, was selfishness. If you see that the person is consistently acting selfishly, there's a good chance that the individual will score high on the dark triad traits. So yeah, selfishness. Or being or acting inconsiderate of others could be another specific definition. People with this trait behavior will try hard to maximize their own utility, oftentimes causing disutility to others, and they also try to justify the entire process. Yeah, the wording makes it seem like they're inhuman, but these people do exist, and unfortunately, there's a lot of them. So the next time you meet someone in a new social situation and are not sure if they'll bring good to you or not, try to observe if they behave in such a way. Not to you exactly, but to a third party. Like I said before, these toxic people usually hide under a mask during the first few times they spend time with you, and will only reveal themselves once you're actually trapped in their web, which means you have to wait and spend time with them for a while before you discover their true identity. And although a good amount of them will slip up and perform these behaviors by accident because the behavior is encrypted in their personality trait, even so, you would want to know whether they are toxic or not as soon as possible. And that's why you should make the topic about someone else that's not you, and see how selfishly and inconsiderately they'll act towards it. One good way would be to tell Mike, the person who you're trying to detect if he's toxic, a secret about a common friend that you two both know, Joanne. And honestly, this doesn't have to be a real secret, you can just totally make it up. And then later ask Joanne if Mike has said anything about you. If Mike is toxic, you're gonna get a response of something like, "Yeah, he has actually told me that you told him about my secret where I was arrested in the past. It was so weird because that's not true at all. He sounded pretty upset that you told him about my secret without me being there." And there you have it. Mike tried to maximize his own utility by pretending to be a good person who cares about other people's privacies, causing utility to you by telling Joanne about you despite you telling him to keep it a secret, and will most likely justify his behavior later as a good friend that cares about Joanne. Tell as many people as possible that Mike is not a good person to hang around with, and remove yourself from his presence ASAP. Likewise, you are almost always better off avoiding these people who score high on the dark triad trait, and you should never be vulnerable around them because they're going to come back causing so much damage to you, and you can quickly and easily find out if the person you're introduced to is toxic or not by observing their selfish behavior. And lastly, you should never become a toxic person yourself. You'll gain no good out of it. But, and this is a big but, there's a glimmer of hope of you scoring high in this one particular dark triad trait, which is psychopathy. Psychopaths, like I said before, have no empathy, and thus, if left unchecked, they'll lose their ability to understand and empathize with other people's physical pain and become serial killers or something. However, because they lack empathy, they can also easily make cold and cruel decisions that regular people hesitate for the sake of the greater good. Erwin Smith from Attack on Titan is a really good example of this. I'm not going to spoil the show, but what he sacrificed for the sake of saving humanity paints a hardcore psychopath on his character. As Thanos puts it, a small price to pay for salvation. And although his reason behind his plan doesn't really make sense, he definitely does care about the greater good. And yeah, psychopaths are really interesting creatures when you get to know them in depth. So I'll be making multiple videos talking about them in the future, and I'll also make more videos about other issues people face in social interactions, from how to manage jerks to how to befriend your boss, and much more. I think I'm going to try to stick to one topic per week and make 3 or 4 videos about it, and then move on to another one the week after. That way I can have my videos somewhat organized compared to if I just post random videos talking about random topics. So that was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. This video talked about finding toxic people in a platonic setting, but I've also made a video talking about toxic traits in a romantic relationship, people who you should never date or get together with. So if you want to know more about that, go check that video out. You can find it in the description below. In the same place, you can also jump to my Instagram account, and I've been trying to find time to make my own website/blog, and I'm still working on it, so I need y'all to wait for that for a little bit more. Sorry for the inconvenience. There's also some books I recommend that are somewhat related to today's topic, so you can jump to the link by checking out my description. I have a lot of stuff you can look around there, so please go check it out if you're interested. But most importantly, I need you guys to know that Life Study Library is a complete solo project, and I'm responsible for everything in this channel, so I need supporters like you to subscribe and like my videos, and overall help me grow this channel so that I can help more people who wants to improve their lives using scientific and psychological knowledge. Your individual support means so much to me, and I can't thank you enough for subscribing to this channel and liking my videos. And that's about everything I wanted to say, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!